Hello and welcome to Travel Explore Celebrate Life. I'm Sunila Patil, and with me, as usual, is Neil. And we're going to be talking about a destination I think, if given a choice, Neil would probably move there. He loves it so much. I'm talking of the most populous city in the world, the metropolitan that's always, buzzing with life and just so many things to do. With over 37 million residents, I think it is an amazing city that you must visit, definitely visit once in a lifetime at least. I'm talking of Tokyo. And Neil, how excited are you to speak about Tokyo today?
Well, like you said, if I had a chance, I would move there because I've mentioned it multiple times, but since 2016, when I first went to Japan, and the first thing you do is you land into Tokyo, I've been there every year, barring the 2 years of the pandemic. So, how excited am I? I'm so excited that we have a little one on the way, and Heta and I were talking about it, and we were really contemplating that Japan should be the first destination for our baby. So Japan always excites me. So when we decided that Tokyo should be the focus or theme of our episode,
Mhm.
I was like, oh my god, I'm going to bring out my list. I'm going to bring out all of this information and stories that I have about Tokyo, and I was like, let's get going. So yes, my excitement level is at 100 right now.
I know. I think in a few years, you'll both be making little bento boxes for the little one to take, to school. I love those bento boxes. They're so cute. It's amazing how everything in Japan, it kind of just looks good, right? Like even the food
Yeah.
looks so good that I get confused. Should I eat it? Should I not? It's so pretty. Like imagine opening your lunchbox and having like a little animal stare out at you, made from carrots and stuff like that. So they're really amazing in everything they do, and it's just amazing. I know you can't stop talking about it, and that's why I was also so excited. I've been to Tokyo, but not as many times as you really know Tokyo well, I would say. I think if we ask Neil, he'll probably tell you go there and then take a right from here and go left, and he'll probably have directions all mapped out, easier than Google Maps. When we speak of Tokyo, I think one of the questions like I have, or what people would ask, is where do I stay? Which neighborhood would I stay in? And I think Tokyo is really famous for its neighborhood like Roppongi, Shibuya. There are so many names. So everything looks good, Akihabara. Like, and then when I start looking at the neighborhoods, I feel, oh, this is nice. There are these things here. Oh no, but that is also nice. There are those other things here. So what is it with Tokyo and its neighborhoods, and how do you decide which neighborhood to visit, where to stay? What do you do?
Well, I think you've hit it right on the spot because Tokyo is a city of many things. Like you said, it is the most populous city in the world. If it was a country in itself, the economy of Tokyo
Mhm.
would be among the top 10 economies of the world. So when you really arrive into Tokyo, right, you see this massive city. You might arrive into Narita Airport or Haneda Airport. Tokyo is one of those cities where there are two
Mm.
airports. Narita is a little
Right.
out of the city. Haneda is bang in the middle of the city. And whenever you look into the sky, you'll often see planes either landing or taking off from one of these airports. Now, as for where to stay, Tokyo's always been about its neighborhoods. You mentioned
Mhm.
that I've been there multiple times, but have I really seen Tokyo to the fullest? I
Mm.
still think I haven't seen it because
Mm.
Tokyo has always been a city where you go to a particular neighborhood and there is a distinct charm about it. There is often a
Mm.
myth that people say that, okay, when you hear about Tokyo being the most populous city in the world, Tokyo is crowded everywhere. That's not the thing. That's
Mm.
the beauty of these neighborhoods because there is a Shibuya, which is famous for something known as the Shibuya crossing, right? Because
Yeah.
we saw it in Fast and Furious Tokyo Drift. And
The
there's
Shibuya
also
scramble. Yeah.
the Shibuya Scramble. There's a new
Yeah.
tower there, new observation deck. We'll
Yeah.
talk about that.
Yeah.
So there is the Shibuya crossing, which is the busiest crossing in the world. They often say that hundreds of thousands of people cross this
Mm.
crossing all the time. And the best time to really visit it is in the evening. So Shibuya is a super crowded neighborhood, but also a
Mm.
neighborhood where 24/7 there will always be something. It is often said that Shibuya is one neighborhood where on a Friday night or a Saturday night, Tokyo is known for its nightlife, right? You go on a Friday night or a Saturday night at midnight, if you stand at Shibuya crossing, you will feel that there's an earthquake happening. Of course,
Wow.
Tokyo are many earthquakes. Like, there are
Yeah,
is
yeah,
prone
yeah,
to many earthquakes, right? And you often
yeah.
get alerts on your phone that,
Mm,
oh, earthquake's happening, get cover.
mm,
But the Friday night, Saturday night earthquakes are not really the
mm,
natural earthquakes, but there are
mm,
so many clubs and bars and izakaya bars, which are the traditional Japanese bars there, that just because of the music and the bass of the music, there's just like, you'll always feel like this vibration where
mm.
something like that, it
Yeah,
just
yeah,
keeps
yeah.
happening, like,
It's like
like,
booming sound.
yeah,
Yeah.
there's booming
It's a
sound. So
party everywhere. Yeah.
that's one side, right? There's
Yeah.
Shibuya. But then
Yeah.
you look at another neighborhood, which would be like an Asakusa, where you will always
Mm,
see it on many itineraries that people go to, where there is the story of old Tokyo. It has the
mm,
Sensoji temple, which is Tokyo's oldest temple, and it is surrounded by all of these traditional shops and streets that are more
mm,
about old Japan, old Tokyo, and how it used to be. But on either sides of these extremes, there are a lot of neighborhoods. There's Shinjuku, which is, in my opinion, is one where there is transformation from what it was post-war to now how Tokyo has become a booming commercial entertainment district. So you'll always find narrow alleys where there will be robot cafes, there will be pachinko parlors, which are similar to casino parlors, but going into a
mhm,
pachinko parlor, traditional Japanese casino uh, games continue happening there. There's also something known as the Golden Guy in Shinjuku, which is a street of
mhm,
tiny bars. And in Golden Guy, there are these small bars where a maximum of 8 to 10 people can sit. And because Shinjuku neighborhood is more about the stories of the from how Japan went from the post-war ruins to a booming
mhm,
country and a metropolis, uh, there will always be discussions about politics and life over these drinks, where you are sitting with the bartender and they create all of these drinks. So there's
mm.
Shibuya, there's Shinjuku, there's Asakusa, there's also Akihabara, which is known as the gaming district. When you
Yeah.
go over here, you'll always see many anime or manga, which is like Japanese
Mm,
comics and Japanese like storytelling, right? You will see a lot of shops that will sell merchandise about this. That is, like I said, it's the gaming district. So you will see a lot of games. Like, back then Nintendo and Sega were
mm.
gaming
Yeah.
consoles that we used to use, right? Today you'll go and there'll be like six floors of just gaming consoles, and you can do
Wow.
all types of gaming over there.
Mm,
Then there is a neighborhood which is Harajuku and Omate Sando, where there is great shopping. Speaking of shopping, there's also Ginza, which is often known for its elegance and luxury,
mm,
and it is known as Tokyo's premier shopping district. So staying in
mm,
Ginza is like, you're staying in one of the most expensive neighborhoods in Tokyo. Then there's Roppongi, which is known for its nightlife. Then, in addition to that, there is also something known as Odaiba, which is more so futuristic because it's known as an island which was built on reclaimed land. And there is a bridge that connects Tokyo mainland to Odaiba, and that is the Rainbow Bridge. So there are multiple neighborhoods. I've stayed at Shibuya, I've stayed at Shinjuku, I've stayed at um, Asakusa. I've stayed at a
mhm,
neighborhood called Akasaka, which is often confused with
mm,
Asakusa. I've stayed in Roppongi. I've also stayed in Ginza. So there's not one place
mhm,
that I would recommend staying at,
mm.
but make sure that you have most of these neighborhoods on your list. And I will definitely say that one trip is never enough. So I often
Sure.
tell people, if you start your trip in Tokyo, also end your trip in Tokyo, because when you start a trip in Tokyo, you will really understand what Tokyo is.
Mm,
You can consume it, and then after a break of seeing Mount Fuji, Kyoto, Osaka,
mm,
you come back
mm.
into Tokyo, and then you're like, oh, I'm very familiar with this city, now let me explore it. So yeah, the neighborhoods are just
Absolutely.
crazy.
Yeah, I think you've given the answer, out there, Neil, and I'm sure our listeners are probably going to rewind and listen to this again because there was just so much information out there. But I think what I picked from what you say is that go and try a new neighborhood every time, and then select and choose what you like. It also depends on what you want to do. If you want to be out partying, you stay somewhere else. If shopping is on your mind, this trip is all about shopping, go stay in Ginza. So it really
Yeah.
depends on what it is that you're looking for, and Tokyo has a neighborhood for everything. There were two more things you mentioned, and I'm going to pick on the first thing first, which is the Shibuya crossing or the Shibuya scramble. And I remember reading about it, and they actually were comparing it to the migration, like how there is a scramble of animals crossing. So what is Shibuya crossing actually? Yes, we know it is in the Shibuya district, and it has something to do with the seven roads, or I think more roads or traffic lights and people crossing from one place to other. So tell us more about what is Shibuya crossing.
So, if you think about Shibuya crossing, it is a pedestrian crossing.
Mm-hmm.
Like in the easiest form, it is a pedestrian crossing. Like you've already mentioned, it is often known as the scramble. Now,
Mm-hmm.
there are these 7 or 8 roads that intersect at one crossing. So, when we are crossing, we see green lights, so you can go from one road to the other. It's
Right.
basically all of these 7 roads converging at one point. And at that point you don't have to just cross one road, you're crossing like 3 roads, 4 roads, 8 roads.
Mm-hmm.
And the site that you see over there is often something that people really want to click photos of. Or I have seen people walk around Shibuya crossing and just be awed by the number of people around them. And you'll often see
Mm-hmm.
people with selfie sticks, you'll often see influencers trying to get that one video for that one reel in those
Right.
30 seconds that the
Mm-hmm.
pedestrian lights have turned green. Now here often it is said that when this crossing at in the evenings, when there are so many people crossing
Mm-hmm.
at this Shibuya crossing, there is a Starbucks next to it, and it is often known
Okay.
as the best place to click a
Mm-hmm.
photo of Shibuya crossing. So if you go into the Starbucks, it is a two-floor Starbucks. You walk into it, and on the first level you go up and you click a photo, and once you've clicked a photo of that, you'll really see the enormity of it. But that used to be the tip up until now. Then they
Mm-hmm.
came up with a new thing which is known as Shibuya Sky, or which is known
Okay.
as the Shibuya Scramble observation deck. We'll talk about it, but
Mm.
relatively new landmark in Shibuya, a really tall building. And if you even go to the ninth or 10th floor of this building, you get an even better view of the crossing because you're
Mm.
seeing it. And Tokyo's a city of neon lights, right? So if you go to the ninth or 10th floor of this building, you really get a bird's eye view of the crossing. And
Mm-hmm.
suddenly, when the lights turn green for the pedestrians to cross, it's just crazy. So, Shibuya crossing is something very unique. But while you're at Shibuya crossing, you will also see a statue of a dog. And
Yes.
the statue of
Hachiko.
a dog is
Yeah.
known as the Hachiko dog story. So people
Yeah.
don't only go to Shibuya crossing for the
Mm.
crossing, but it's also for this Hachiko dog. Now, generally, for someone who goes and sees the statue of the dog, if you don't know the backstory of this, you will just be like, okay, like, why is there a
Mm.
statue of a dog over
A
here?
dog.
So
Yes. Yeah.
I think it's a good point to bring in this story because it's a very
Mm-hmm.
heartwarming thing where
Yeah.
Hachiko
There's
was,
actually a movie about it, right? With
yeah,
Richard Gere,
yeah,
Hachiko. Yeah. Yeah. So
exactly.
tell us the story. Yeah.
So basically, Hachiko was a loyal dog to a professor, and the
Mm-hmm.
professor's name was Hidesa Buro Ueno. And the
Mm-hmm.
professor was teaching at the Imperial University in Tokyo. So every day, the professor would leave his house and go to Shibuya station in the morning to take a train to the university and return in the evening. And when the professor would return in the evening from work, Hachiko, his dog, would be at the station to greet the professor. So the dog would go with the professor to Shibuya station. The professor would hop onto the train, go to the university, come back. Now, tragically, in May 1925, the professor
Mm-hmm.
went to the university, but while he was at university, he suffered from a hemorrhage and passed away. Now, while he was at work, he passed away,
Mm-hmm.
which means that Hachiko didn't know that the professor had passed away while he was at university. That left Hachiko waiting. Now, from 1925 up until 1935, when Hachiko himself passed away, every day for nearly 10 years, Hachiko would be waiting at Shibuya station for Professor Ueno to come back. Now, Hachiko's heartwarming or unwavering loyalty to this professor moved people all across Japan.
Mm-hmm.
And to symbolize loyalty, because Japan is a
Yeah.
collectivist culture and also the bond between humans and animals, in
Yeah.
April 1934, which was a year before Hachiko's death, a
Mm.
bronze statue of Hachiko was erected right outside Shibuya station. And Hachiko himself was also there when the statue was unveiled. Now, during the
Mm.
World War, the statue unfortunately melted. So, again in
Mm.
1948, they replaced it with a newer statue. And that's the statue that you see today. And like you said, there have been movies made about it, there have been
Yeah.
stories made about it. So when you know this backstory, Shibuya Scramble
Mm.
just becomes more than a crossing into something where
It's
you're doing
really
the
a place
crossing.
you should visit.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're doing multiple other things. So that is quite interesting, and that's what Shibuya Crossing is all about. It's about the stories that it has.
Yeah, Neil, you're absolutely right. Because I remember when I went there and I stood there by the statue, and then you learn the story, and it really warms your heart. And I think it's an excellent example, of course, of the loyalty and the special bond between humans and animals and dogs, especially. But I think it also speaks a lot about the Japanese in general as to, how they are as a culture and how they have evolved. Because I remember one thing that we were looking for directions, you're using the local trains and we were looking for directions. And one thing I noticed in Japan is when you ask them for a direction, they start walking with you. Like they come
Yeah.
ahead and they take you. Like they don't just tell you, they don't leave you halfway that go here, there, take a right. They start coming with you. And I thought that was like, as if you're a guest in their house and they're coming with you, they're walking, they're taking you, and they actually show you till the end of the road, at least that, okay, this is the way you do. So I found it like an amazing culture that really exists in Japan. And a lot has been said and spoken about Japanese culture. We all follow a lot of it wherever possible, in business, in life, and all of that. But Neil, you also mentioned at the Shibuya crossing that you have the new attraction is the tower, and one of the best ways to photograph Shibuya crossing, of course, is the higher up you get a better view. But I think a time lapse is just amazing. When you see the time lapse of the crossing, it's like in super speed watching people go. So let's come to this star, and what are the best views. So when we were researching for Tokyo, of course you've been there many more times, but I think there are three main towers in Tokyo that you can go to and have a different view. So what's the best view of Tokyo, and what is this new tower at Shibuya?
I would not say one tower gives you the best view, but if you were to ask
Right.
me if there were three observation decks that
Mm-hmm.
you should really check out in Tokyo while you're there, one would be Tokyo Skytree, another one would be Tokyo Tower, and the third one, like I mentioned, would be the Shibuya Scramble observation deck. Now, all three are different in their own right. Tokyo Tower. So
Okay.
that is something very interesting. It's a very unique tower. It is an iconic symbol of
Mm-hmm.
Tokyo, and it was designed to be inspired by the Eiffel Tower. So back in the day, it was painted in only white, but then later on, they changed it to orange and white for air safety regulations. Now, when you go to Tokyo Tower, you are close to the Roppongi neighborhood, which means that you can see different things closer to that. So many say that you get a nice view of the city from Tokyo Tower just because if you visit it at night. Now, along with Tokyo Tower, there's also Tokyo Skytree, which is
Mm-hmm.
one of the tallest structures in Japan and was the second tallest structure in the world at the time of its completion. Now, how is the Tokyo Skytree different from the Tokyo Tower? I think Tokyo Skytree, when you go to the observation deck, there are two observation decks. One is known as the Tembo deck at 350 meters, and one is known as the Galleria or Galleria at 450 meters. Now, when you go up there, on a clear day you can see all of Tokyo, and you can also see Fuji-san or Mount Fuji,
Mm.
which everyone in the world likes because it's a
Yeah.
mountain bang in the middle of nowhere, and it's this volcanic mountain.
And
It's
if you're
pretty
really lucky, you see it.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
cloud cover all the time. So if you can see it, wow, you are lucky. Yeah.
It's like, when you're in Japan, the guides will tell you Fuji-san is always shy to reveal
Yeah.
itself to the world. And if you're
Yeah.
lucky, you'll see it. But if you're at Tokyo Skytree, and because it is at a height of approximately 634 meters, the tower, and the
Mhm.
observation deck is about 450 meters, if you're lucky, you'll see how big Tokyo really is. And that will give you an idea that, it's not only that you will be able to complete it in 4 or 5 days,
Mhm.
but just that it has so many neighborhoods, and you'll just see this never ending city, unending city, and
Mhm.
it just stretches for kilometers and kilometers and miles at end. So there's Tokyo Tower, which has an emoji
Mhm.
for itself. There's Tokyo Skytree, which is a unique tower in itself. And the third one, and the newest one, like I mentioned, is Shibuya Scramble, which is an observation deck. The unique thing about Shibuya Scramble is the fact that you go to the 45th floor of this building. It is only 229 meters from the ground, which is much lower than what you see at Tokyo Tower or Tokyo Skytree.
Mm-hmm.
But the unique thing is, this has an indoor observation deck and also an outdoor observation
Mm-hmm.
deck. And the outdoor observation deck has an escalator outside. So at night, many people will do reels of themselves just coming down the escalators, and you have all of Tokyo in the background. So
Wow.
viewing Tokyo during the day is a different experience. Viewing Tokyo during the night is a different experience. I will not say do one or the other. I would say do both,
Mm-hmm.
because they are unique in their own right. Just one more tip over here. If you're going to any of these observation decks, and if you're going during the winters, it can get really windy. And if you're going to
Mm-hmm.
an outdoor observation deck like the one at Shibuya Scramble, you really need your jacket and scarf because it can get very cold.
No, definitely, I agree with you. And I think, Neil, you're right. Like, you can view different parts of the city from the different towers. But one more thing is, viewing the tower itself is also a pleasure. And I remember
Yeah.
the last time I was in Tokyo, we went to a restaurant which had this beautiful view of the Tokyo Tower, and with the lights changing and everything. And, half my attention was on the food, but the other half really was on the tower and the way it was looking, and then going and taking photos from time to time, because you just can't help yourself. You have to go to the window and take a photo out there. Incidentally, the restaurant was actually Italian, so I was a tad bit disappointed, because honestly, in Japan, I don't want to eat anything but Japanese food. And it was a very nice restaurant, very nice food. But I was like, maybe I should go down, and and I did. I satisfied my craving by going right down and going to the street food, because even the street food in Japan is so amazing. So and everything is open late till night, like until late night. So I was out there on the street food. But Tokyo today really is popular for a lot of the Michelin star restaurants, right? There's so many, and I know that you have to book them way in advance. So what is this obsession? Because of course we are getting used to Japanese food in India as well. Like sushis are quite popular. We even order it on Swiggy and Zomato now, right? We have food delivery apps that bring us sushi back home. But tempuras, ramen, sashimi, there's so much food. We've spoken about it in the other episodes. But since we are talking of Tokyo, let's why so many Michelin starred restaurants in Tokyo?
I think if you look at the Michelin guide, the Michelin
Mm-hmm.
food guide, it is more about the food, it is more about the creativity, it's more about the ambiance at the restaurant, it's more about the service. Now, given the Japanese obsession with perfection, every meal that comes out is going to have great service and is going to be plated very nicely. You often see videos of this on Instagram where an omelette comes out to you and the chef comes out with a knife and just slices it, and
Yeah.
then the omelette falls like very graciously.
Yeah.
So the obsession is not with Michelin star, but the fact that the Michelin guide gives importance to all of these things. Now, getting a reservation at any of these restaurants is very tricky. Some
Mhm.
restaurants will have only 8 seats. Now, sushi or like unique food all around the world, or all into unique food from Tokyo,
Mm.
was introduced to everyone all around the world, in my opinion, because of one documentary, which was a documentary called Jiro Dreams of Sushi. And that documentary
Mhm.
was about Sukiyabashi Jiro, who's a chef. And he often has this sushi menu of around 20 or 25 courses, which you pay about $350 or $400 for. The meal itself ends in about 45 minutes, but it's an experience where you have the greatest produce. Everything is amazing. Now, there's also another place which is known as Sushi Seto, which is
Mhm.
eight seats, and that's it. You will not get a reservation at all. But more so, the thing, like you said, is that all of these restaurants are so popular and then they get famous. But Michelin star is not the only are the Michelin star restaurants are not the only
Mm.
famous restaurants, because Michelin gives 1 star, 2 star, and 3 stars, right? The 1 star
Yeah.
ones are great, 2 star
Mm.
ones are great, 3 star ones are great. Now, there is this obsession with Michelin star, but there's also a new guide that has come out, which is the world's 50 best. And recently, the
Mhm.
Asia's 50 best restaurants came out. And the best restaurant on that list was a restaurant
Mm.
named Sezan in Tokyo, which was not a
Wow. It
Japanese
had to be
restaurant.
Tokyo.
But it
Yeah.
was not a Japanese restaurant, it was a
Okay.
French restaurant in Japan.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So it is a neo French style cuisine that they
Mm.
serve there. Another one that was there was a place called Florilège or Florilège,
Mm-hmm.
which is again French Japanese cooking. So you mentioned that you went to an Italian
Mm-hmm.
place. I have observed that over the years, many people say that the Italian food in Tokyo is better than the Italian food in Italy. So you
Mm-hmm.
will often see that it's not only the Japanese food that you're exposed to, which is amazing, but rather the Italian food,
The
the French food that you
combination.
get
Mm.
over there is also incredible. And because of the obsession with perfection, because the chefs are just trying to master one art, like, someone will try to make sushi all the time and they will only make sushi all their life. Or there will be someone who like just hand make noodles, and that is the only thing that they will do all their life. So the obsession with Michelin star restaurants or
Mm.
the world's 50 best restaurants is good. But if I were to tell you, instead of trying to book one of these restaurants where you're going to be
Mm.
disappointed, because I came across one restaurant where they said that we have a wait list, or we are like a club where there are members, and you will
Mm-hmm.
only be get a reservation or become part of this club who is allowed to eat at this restaurant if one of our members dies. So if
Wow.
it's
Okay.
like, it's just like, okay, then there's just no way to get into these places, right? And there are websites that help you get reservations at these places, but in my
Mm-hmm.
opinion, after so many trips to Tokyo, I feel that the regular restaurants are also amazing.
Mm.
And in Japan, of course, you can use Google Maps to walk around, but don't go by the ratings on Google Maps. Another
Mm.
rating website that you should really look for is something known as Tabelog, or like,
Okay.
Tabelog. And
Mm.
Tabelog is a Japanese rating website for restaurants, and the Japanese are very critical in their ratings. So, sometimes you will go on to Zomato in Mumbai and you'll be like, oh wow, this restaurant is 4.1 rated or 3.8 rated. I'll go for
Mm.
it. Like, but
Mm.
the restaurants in Japan that are 4.3 rated are probably the best restaurants in the world,
Wow.
and the 3.1s are like the good ones. So you will often see that anything above 3 you can definitely walk into. And I feel like there are just so many things that you can really try,
Yeah.
that don't keep trying the same thing. And that's the obsession with restaurants, because
Yeah.
Mumbai will have about 25,000 restaurants,
Mm.
or 35,000 restaurants. They say Tokyo has about 1 lakh plus restaurants or
Wow.
100,000 plus restaurants, because there are
But
so
then
many
we
hole in
have
the
our
wall ones.
dabbawalas who bring us lunch, Neil. So,
Yeah.
they're probably not in Japan where you tend to eat out quite a lot more. And I think I'm really happy to hear this from you because I'm feeling a lot better about my Italian food and the Italian dinner in Tokyo. And actually, the food was really good. And just on the same topic, like when we go to say London or when I was in the US also right now, we actually were looking for and we saw a lot of Peruvian Japanese restaurants. So that's also like a
Yes.
combination that has become very popular everywhere, and you get a lot of food and new dishes that you can try, which is very, very really tasty and delicious. But on the topic of food, we know there is so much of Japanese food that is popular, but what about the vegetarians? Because a lot of people are vegetarian, and your wife Heta is a vegetarian. You went to Japan. Did they have a problem? Did they have their own food with them? Because that was how it was in the earlier days, that you most vegetarians would carry some food with them because you need something to be sure that this is vegetarian. So do they still have a choice in Japan, or you still need to carry something with you?
So if you think about it, right, it's a myth that there is no vegetarian food in Japan. Of course,
Mm-hmm.
seafood is a big part of their culture, but
Mm-hmm.
so is tofu, so is rice. And as a result, you will get vegetarian food everywhere. Like, Heta got vegetarian ramen. Then, of course, you won't get your avocado cream cheese sushi because that was made for the Indian palate and the Western palate. But you'll get vegetarian ramen, which is made out of a mushroom broth. You'll get vegetable tempura, which is fried. It's just vegetables
Mm-hmm.
fried with rice and pickles. Then there is Japanese curry. Of course, it is made out of pork or chicken, but there
Mm-hmm.
is vegetarian curry too, where it gives you a feel of home. Like,
Mm-hmm.
my father-in-law
Like a
was like,
curry
Neil,
rice,
this
yeah.
Japanese curry was the best meal I've had on our trip. So you have the curry as well.
Mm-hmm.
Then if you think about the udon noodles, or if you think about different Japanese street food, you get a
Mm-hmm.
lot of vegetarian food. And with vegan food becoming such a big thing, you will find vegan restaurants all across Japan. So I think it is a myth, and this myth now needs to be busted, because um, you do get a lot of vegetarian food. The okonomiyaki, which is a potato pancake, is
Mm,
vegetarian. There is the teppanyaki, where you can have like vegetables made on a teppanyaki
mm,
pan, and that can be given to you with a fried rice. So a lot of the food that you get is
right.
vegetarian friendly. Maybe at a sushi place, if you were to go, or a
Mm,
kaiseki place, which is a Japanese traditional meal, you may not get vegetarian, or it might be difficult, but you will get vegetarian food all along. But you should also know which places to go to and which places to not go to. And that's why, like I said, Tabelog is a good restaurant
mm.
guide. Similar to that, there is another website called HappyCow, and HappyCow lists down all of the vegetarian places all across the cities in the world. So you should also look at that, and
Mm.
it really gives you a big list of places that you can have a vegetarian meal at in Tokyo.
Yes, Neil. I think two apps that we have to download. Of course, one is the website Happy Cow, and the second is Tabelog. Definitely on my next trip to Japan. I think I'm going to have my list of restaurants ready first and then go in. But let's just complete this topic of food. Yes, I know that food in Japan needs a podcast on its own, and the dishes in Japan as well. But we've spoken of it also earlier. But list out your five favorite top non-vegetarian dishes that you would order, or a drink or a dessert with it. So give us a meal that we should go and order in Japan if we love non-vegetarian or seafood or whatever it is.
I
What are
think
your favorites?
listing down five would definitely be difficult. But if you're in Tokyo,
Hmm.
you should have the sushi, because a sushi experience used to be at the Tsukiji fish market earlier. But that
Mm,
Tsukiji fish market has moved now, but the restaurant still exists. So you should definitely
okay,
have that. Another thing that you should definitely try is a tempura meal, because it's a
right,
misconception that a tempura meal is just a deep fried meal with deep fried food with rice. It's actually the way that batter is made, and how that meat or chicken or vegetables are deep fried
right.
is an
Mm,
art in itself. So I would say a tempura meal is definitely something that you should go for. Ramen is always on the list, and you will often see a place called Ichiran Ramen. You should definitely try that. But there are many other ramen places also that you should try, because ramen is different in different parts of Japan. But if you're talking about Tokyo, different neighborhoods will also have different types of ramen. So
mhm.
that is a third thing. Fourth thing, I would say something that is like a hot pot meal. It's a shabu shabu. So I think that is also important. I could go on, but in the interest of time,
Mhm.
my fifth meal
Yes.
would probably be something that is udon noodles, which are not like ramen, but they are thick
Mm.
noodles.
Right. I think that is enough on a 4-day trip to Japan to try, or to Tokyo rather, different meals to try out, and the list is endless. Of course, Neil, we've been speaking of Tokyo for the last half an hour, and I know we can go on for the next half an hour, but let's close this episode here itself. As a good closing point, I think right now is the cherry blossom season in Japan, and we know that this year it's been a little delayed, right? So when you're planning your trip to Tokyo or to Japan, very often you're faced with this fact: when do I go? What should I do? Should I really go only during the cherry blossoms, or can I go all around the year? So, as a last point for today's episode, what's your take on when do we go to Tokyo and to Japan?
So, if I were to count the number of times I've been to Japan since 2016, 16, 17, 18, 19, I went in 2020 in the month of February, and then I've been twice ever since. So I've been to Japan 7 times. How
Wow.
many times have I gone during the cherry blossoms? Zero. Because I still
Okay.
haven't seen
There's
the
the
cherry
answer
blossoms.
right there.
Yeah, exactly, right? So the cherry blossoms are one popular period in Japan.
Mhm.
But after the cherry blossoms are done, the alpine route starts, which is this amazing 30-foot high wall, and your bus is going through it, and or your car is going through it. So the alpine route season, which is just after the cherry blossoms, is something that you should definitely think about. Then, along with that, there are also the autumn colors that you should see in the month of October, November, and December. I would say November and December more so. That is also a great period to go. So I don't think the cherry blossoms are the only period that you should visit Japan in. One thing you should remember is during the cherry blossoms, things also get crowded. So it's always better to think about those things. So I would say that it's simple. 7 times to Japan, I still haven't been, because I think the multi-entry, multi-year visa that you generally get for Japan, if you have a well-traveled passport, you can definitely visit Japan multiple times. And you have a direct flight from Mumbai, you have a direct flight from
Yeah.
Delhi, you have a direct flight from Bangalore to Tokyo. So
Mhm.
I think I'll probably go to Tokyo again in the future, and I think I'll see the cherry blossoms at some point. But I don't think they are the only time that you should visit
Hmm.
Japan. So I would say that Tokyo is a city that you should enjoy all different types, like in all seasons, and that is the beauty of it.
No, absolutely. And we are waiting for your next trip to Tokyo so we get more tips on what else to do in a different neighborhood of Tokyo. So, listeners, that was Tokyo for all of you. And with like, I think the transportation is just fabulous out there. It's so efficient, it's wonderful. One more reason to go to Tokyo and to Japan is also the shopping. Don't forget that, because you have some amazing shopping out there. They're one of our favorite brands. Uniqlo is also Japanese. Of course, it's there here now, but there are so many other things, from electronics to other things, that you can buy, and you can actually buy a suitcase to bring back all those wonderful things you bought, because even they are so amazing. And given the Japanese quality, everything is just amazing out there. So let's head to Tokyo and discover all of that for ourselves. We have a nice little guide out here now on things to do, what to eat, and what to see, and even enjoy beyond those the sightseeing and the attractions in Tokyo. So Neil, thank you so much. This has been
Thank
wonderful
you.
speaking about Tokyo, and we will be back again next week with another episode. So until then, we will say goodbye, but you can definitely write to us, let us know your feedback. So our emails are neil@veenaword.com and sunila@veenaword.com. So that's neil@veenaword.com and sunila@veenaword.com. We'll come back with another episode that will surely give you one more inspiration to travel somewhere. So keep traveling and celebrate life. Thank you and bye bye.
Bye. See you.